Hash and circle up.
Welcome to On, the Hash House Harrier podcast for interviews, history, and stories. I'm your host, Ra.
Today on the podcast, we're in a little village south of Valencia in Spain with a longtime hasher who found a hash in one of the major South American cities and was there near the beginning of a few other kind of monumental hash clubs. Welcome today on the podcast, Hopeless.
How are you?
Great.
Good to see you.
Let's tell everyone your hashing origin story. When, where, and how did you get to your first hash?
My first hash was in San Jose in Costa Rica. I worked in a small finance company there, and my boss, a chap called Peter Shearer, came in one day and said, "You must come on the hash." So I had no idea what it was. And it was either 78 or 79. The San Jose hash, they were on about run 25. When I was there, I did 25 runs with them. Peter then was transferred off to Houston and was replaced by a chap called Jim Gregory, who I then took on the hash as well. That was when I started hashing. I did 25 with them until 91. Then I got moved to Holland, but I didn't run with the hash in Holland because the Dutch, the one that was running there was in The Hague. And I worked in Amsterdam, and they ran on a Monday evening at about 6 or 7 o'clock. And I left the office about 6:30, so it was a bit difficult.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you what you got involved with in the first Costa Rica stuff. Did you hare while you were there?
I didn't hare was I did 25 runs. They hared mainly around San Jose. They did occasional weekend hashes up in near Barba. Do you know Costa Rica at all?
Just on the map.
Okay. Costa Rica has a meseta. My wife was from Costa Rica, which was why I got involved with that. I was back visiting them 15 years ago and managed to get them out. But they were a very irregular hash at that time. But at the time, we were running every Monday evening. Once I got the office under control, we'd do a Monday hash and the occasional weekend hash. We go out to Barbara or somewhere like that.
How many people were hashing weekly?
There must have been 20 or 30 of us.
Yeah.
Which was quite a good thing. They came out with a book for the 100th run, which I had somewhere. And I forget the guy who does the magazine that comes out on a monthly basis.
Shakespeare?
Shakespeare, yeah. I sent him a copy of that, which means I can't find it anymore. I don't know what I've done.
He should be able to reproduce it then,
Yeah, he said he was going to use it if he found anything interesting. It was founded about 6 or 8 months before I arrived there. They had it well organized. There's a chap called, towards the end of it, have you heard of Patchwork Quilt?
Oh, yeah, I know him well, of course.
Giles. He was down there and started reorganizing it. But at that time, I was on my way out. So that was it.
Yeah. Did you know Bambi? Was he there? Bill Barbie?
Oh, yeah, Barbie, yeah. He was more or less running it. He was GM. He took over from Ian someone or other, and he was running. So Bill Barbie. The names I remember were Millard Farmer and, oh, God. I can't remember some of the others. Garrett, chap from the Finance of America, something like that. It was a pretty good crowd.
Bambi, Bill Barbie, and Patchwork started the Inter Americas there in Costa Rica a few years later in 84. Yeah. And Bambi came over and lived in Cairo. I hashed with him in Cairo for a few years in the 90s.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I know him pretty well. He passed a few years ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Okay. Amsterdam now. We actually hashed with Amsterdam after Eurohash. We got stuck there by the Air Canada strike. Yeah. It's got a few more clubs going. Where'd you go after that, and where'd you resume hashing?
I was hashing in Costa Rica, and I didn't hash in Amsterdam, but then I went down to Madrid. And not far from where I lived was a 𝐏𝐨𝐝𝐿, which is an open-air bar. And would you believe it was a place where certain drinkers would go along. And I met a chap called Chris Bell, who eventually became Master of Music. And then he was known as Eurodon because he arranged the Euro hash in 90, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He and I and his wife, etc., became very good friends. I went on run 75 with them, which I've got an enormous photograph of all sitting. It's actually in a trash pitch. There must have been 60 or 70 of them there. And that's not long after is when I set my disastrous first run.
All right, what made it disastrous?
At that time, during the winter, they would run at 1 o'clock on a Sunday. And during the summer, they would run at 7 o'clock on a Monday. And I put my dame down with a chap called John Woodger. And we went out to this place and we found a trail, etc., wandered around it, and then went out to set it on the Sunday to find that the hunters were out and they were shooting and we couldn't use the trail. Now, this is the first one I've set, right?
Yeah.
So we'd already sent out the car park and all the rest of it, because there they had a hash newsletter and you published the car park the previous day. So we couldn't change that. And of course, there were mobile phones or anything like that. So we went out on the Monday evening and tried to set something, going halfway around and doing all kinds of weird and wonderfuls. And when they came back, first of all, they couldn't, the flour was all over the place. And they accused us of laying hash hieroglyphics because they couldn't understand what was going on. And then they accused us of doing the shortest run in living history.
That's an interesting point we don't talk about all the time on here, that back when communication was different, if something came up, there was often no way to get the word out. Yeah,
No.
Something had changed. Interesting. Yeah.
We're talking about 1985. Internet was really not there. No mobile phones. You got, let's face it, at that time, the Madrid hash was running an average 60 to 70 people.
Oh.
So to get news out to all of these people was quite difficult.
Did you bring one copy of where the car park was going to be, or did you hand out a piece of paper to everybody?
No, at the end of the previous run, there would be a newsletter.
Right.
So you pick up your newsletter. It was a write-up of the previous run and the instructions to get to the next run. And it was done by various people. It started off being done by a guy called Dan McGraw. I kept about 200 of these newsletters. And then when I moved house and all the rest of it, and I tried to get them back to the Madrid hash, no one was interested. So I took out the ones that were interested in me, basically the ones I was in, and dumped the rest of them, I'm afraid. But it was really a hash history.
Yeah. It'd be nice to get them scanned.
They were photocopied.
Yeah. But we could take a picture of them or put them through a little scanner and preserve them for Madrid.
Yeah. The ones I've still got, I could get something over to you like that. Yeah.
Yeah. How long did you stay in Madrid hashing?
I was in Madrid from 85 to 89. My first position there was a bin man.
Okay.
Which
clean up the rubbish?
No, my job was to take the rubbish bin along. On my way to the hash, I would fill it up with ice. And then someone else would take the beer. El Porteño, he was the general manager of a factory called IFF. So he'd take the beer because he buys a beer truck, etc. He'd take the beer, they stick it all in the barrel, drink the beer, stick the rubbish in it, and I just had to throw the rubbish away.
That's a pretty important job, yeah, the ice.
So that was quite useful. Unfortunately, I got more than one down because I was on autopilot. And during the winter months, I'd still do that. So it would be snow all around us, and I still have the ice. We actually did a snow line run once, which you've probably come across. Chris and I did a run up in wherever it was, but there was the snow up there. And because El Porteño had this factory which made colorants and scents and all this sort of thing, we needed to color the flour.
Right.
And apparently the cheapest one is a sort of a red-pink one. We could have done yellow, but it would look like a dog running around all over the place. So we did a pink one. So we had a pink flower run.
Yeah.
Up in the snow.
Blood in the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that many people and sometimes harsh conditions, anybody ever get lost?
I wasn't there, but I left in 89. I think in about 91, they had what they called the hypothermia run. And a couple of people ended up in hospital because they got lost in the blizzard and all the rest of it. Whilst I was there, nothing like that happened.
It was named after the run, right?
Oh, yeah, no, went on before the run. But we ran in all conditions. The worst thing was that at that time, the downs were all pints. There's nothing worse than trying to down a cold pint of beer. Because the first one goes down pretty. When you're on number 4, which was frequent in my case, it was really quite hard work.
Yeah. Where did you get your hash name? Had you got it by Madrid time?
Curiously, there were certain people in Madrid who had hash names. I can't remember any names in Costa Rica, but my surname is Hopgood, HOPGOOD, which transforms into hopeless.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as my bin man experience explains, I'm not brilliant.
Where did that come up? Was that a Madrid naming?
No, we didn't have namings actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
Chris used to call me Hopeless. When I'm back on the Eurohash, I was introduced as Hopeless and it just took off.
Yeah. All right. So that was another big hash. How much were you traveling? Were you pretty much sat there and you worked and lived in Madrid the whole time?
Yeah, I was in Madrid the whole time. The job that I worked for, I was based 3 or 4 years in a country, then I moved on to another country.
Right.
Whilst I was in Madrid, going back to hash names, I was hash cash for 2.5, 3 years or something like that. And when I left, I was being transferred to Guatemala. So I told all of the hash, I'll be at the Euro building in the bar. I've got a flight at 10 o'clock tonight, expecting a few people to come along. And one of the people who came along was Wilma, whose husband was Flintstone, obviously. And she came up to me and said, "What's your name?" And I said, "John." She said, "But I've only ever known you as Hash Cash. That's it."
The whole time.
So
that's great.
We literally didn't. There were certain people who had names. I can't remember the GMs having names. There are other people. There's a guy we called Puffer because he was playing rugby in Belgium, lost his 2 front teeth, and he sounded like a steam train running along. Obviously, it was Flintstone because he looked like Fred Flintstone and his wife Wilma, etc., etc. But a lot of people just didn't know. Because I was Hash Cash and I kept all the statistics, I've actually got a list of all the runs up to the 200. I've got the 200 book, and down there it's got names and hash names.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
yeah, this is good history to somebody, a project for you, or we get somebody to say, okay, I'll sit around and photograph all those. That'd be great to preserve. What was the cost? Do you remember as Hash Cash? How much did it cost to run back then?
We're in pesetas at the time. And my first thing as Hash Cash was to raise it, I think it was 100 pesetas, which was about $1, to 200, because every time we needed to buy beer, we didn't have the money. And it was much cheaper to buy beer by the lorry load. So I put it up to 200, which was neither here nor there. They bitched about it and all the rest of it. But it always meant that we had a subsidy there. And so we kept going like that. Yeah, we were there for the 200 run, and I went back to the 1,000. The worst thing about setting runs up there is fine, because what would happen is that we do the run at 1 o'clock, finish by about 1:30, the run, do the downs. So about 4 o'clock, we're going along for a restaurant. Restaurants on Sunday in Madrid are full, but they start closing down about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So to find a restaurant that will cater for 70 or 80 people at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is no easy task.
Yeah.
But we always managed to do it. And they had a tradition in that we'd always have a fixed meal, but there's a drink from the Basque district called Pacharan, which you may have not have come. It's basically an aniseed drink made with endrina, which are like black currants.
Yeah.
But at the end of each meal, we would bang on the table and try and get a couple of bottles of Pacharan free.
That's great. So these are restaurants you'd have to arrange before.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You had to go out and you get to know, for example, for 70 people, you can't have chicken, because if they have to cook in advance, chicken will go off. All kinds of weird and wonderful things that you learn as you're going along.
Yeah.
But it all worked out. We had a good time, and I went from there to Guatemala, a good send-off. Curiously, the Madrid hash had more trophies than I've seen on a lot of hashes. We obviously had the hash shit.
Yeah.
But then they had a trophy which was given by a couple of guys from Shell called the Baumgartner Wagstaff Trophy, which was given to the person who had spent longest without the hash shit. Then there was the hash prick, which was given to someone who had committed a non-hash related stupidity during the week, such as going out onto the balcony, getting your towel trapped in the door, etc., being stuck on the balcony for the next 4 hours trying to get in, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So those are the main ones.
Were these virtual trophies or actual handed?
No, actual trophies. For example, the original hash prick was a phallic symbol that Chris used to live in Borneo. His wife from Malaysia, so we go back to Borneo, and he bought a wooden prick from there. And then that got lost somewhere. The Baumgartner Wagstaff was a mug about twice the size of the thing you're using, and very decorated, etc. The prick then developed into, someone found a glass one with a couple of balls on it. And so you had to drink out of that. They also had a mug, which was like a 2.5, 3 litre mug, which Muted, or Dave Martin, who was a guy who'd run a lot, etc. If you could drink that down in one, he would get your name put on it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
No one's got their name on it, although lots of people drank it in one. He then disappeared off to Denmark.
Yeah. What about making of T-shirts and stuff? How often did you get T-shirts in those years?
T-shirts were made for celebration. For example, I got one made when I did my 25th run or something like that, and I got one that got given out, and for various celebration ones. But it wasn't a regular thing.
Did the hash have any milestone things besides a down? They just recognize you for 50, 100 runs type thing?
You got the 100-run mug, which...
I see a mug in the corner. Oh, a different one.
That's a 100-run mug.
Right.
Which,
type. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pewter. I mean, as Hashcast, I had to get these damn things engraved, and there's only one person in Madrid who could engrave it without damaging anything. This says Madrid hash 100. It's got my name on there, John Hopgood, and 1988. So that's that.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, Guatemala. What did you find when you arrived in Guatemala in terms of life and hashing?
We got there, and I soon discovered that they were just starting up. They've been doing a few runs, etc., and they're run number 11. And the guy who was running, a chap called Don McGillivray, lived around the corner from where I was. I persuaded myself to go into their first hash committee meeting, and came out of there as RA.
Nice. Wow.
They said I knew about more hashing than most of them there. But
did they sing in Guatemala?
Not a great deal.
Yeah.
It's difficult to come across. Some hashes sing a lot, and we just did downs, etc. I was there as RA, and then Don moved back to Canada. He was a Canadian consul there. I became GM, and we kept it going like that. There we had more away hashes than we had in Madrid.
Yeah.
Because there was lots of places we could go down to the coast and all the rest of it. We had one brilliant run, actually. Do you know Guatemala at all?
I was there for a wedding for a week and did a kind of a van tour. I just remember we were in a van, and every time we went into a new town, they would come in our van and spray us with bug spray.
Oh, okay. Now, if you go down to the Caribbean coast, there's a lake down there called 𝐏𝐨𝐝𝐿. We went down there. We stayed in a hotel there, and there was a guy from Shell. They were prospecting or whatever they do down there, and he had a boat. So we went up the lake and then got off, and we did a run that went up to a river, a cold water river, with a hot waterfall falling into it.
Oh.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So there we did 3 or 4 away hashes, because it was quite easy to get out to. A couple of hours you could get out in the countryside, not expensive. It was a fairly small hash. It must have been about 25 or 30 people.
Yeah. Well,
there I did the newsletter as well. And of course, by that time, we were getting into internet, so I could start sending stuff around.
They looked at you as somebody who'd been hashing a while and knew things. Did you bring any traditions in that stuck while you were there?
Not traditions as such. It depends what you mean by traditions. The hash all around the world is fairly similar, which is the great thing about the hash. You can go into it. There are very few different things that you get on with. Some of the laying a trail can be different in certain places. For example, going back to Costa Rica, they didn't have false trails, but suddenly a thing called an Iranian came in. And I don't know if you remember, but about that time when the American embassy in Tehran was invaded,
Right.
the Americans tried to get across there and they got stuck halfway across the desert and had to go back again. So suddenly we had Iranians all over the place, which would go along a trail and had to turn around and go back.
Oh my God, that's perfect hash irreverence. The Arabian. Oh, yeah, maybe people will do that today and it'll have a different meaning. Yeah. Okay. All right. So
the traditions of that, as I say, laying a trail is fairly similar. Doing the down downs is fairly similar. Not a great deal different. I'm not a great innovator as such.
Yeah. How long did you stay there and where to next?
I was there from 89 to 92. And then I went down to Buenos Aires.
Had there ever been a hash in Buenos Aires that you knew of?
If you look it up, you've probably I've got them as well, these little handbooks from way back when you know. And apparently there used to be a hash in a place called Tartagal. But I've no idea where there was, and I presume it resurrected and died. But when I got there was no hash at all. I hadn't really thought about selling a hash. I was more interested in getting the job done, all the rest of it. But my wife met someone called Narrowgage's wife at the school. And Narrowgage was a hasher from Indonesia. He said, we must set up a hash. So fair enough. Always do what the wife tells you. So I sent out a fax to all of the embassies and anyone who I thought might be interested, explaining what the hash was and how we want to get together and listed it, and got absolutely no replies. So after a month, I sent out a hash and said, thank you very much for all your replies. I'm having a committee meeting, an initial committee meeting at my place, and I gave the address and all the rest of it. Contact me, and anyone who's interested, come along. And there was a girl who had been at the Swedish embassy and run with us in Guatemala. There were a couple of guys from the South African embassy, a couple of guys from the Australian embassy, Narrowgage, who was a train technician working down there, and me. And so we said, we're going to do it. And they had contacts in the local schools, so St. George's and various other places. And our first run, we had about 23, 25 people, which wasn't bad. The curious thing about it is that there was a visiting hasher from Guatemala who'd left Guatemala and was on his way to Bolivia. And he and I set the first run. Halfway through the downs, he caught a taxi to the airport, and I've never seen him again.
That's great. He didn't get his hair shirt. That's great. Wow. Back then, it probably even had in the city proper maybe 1 million people. That's a big city.
Yeah, we started off with 23, and then I asked on the basis of what we had done, I said, anyone interested in the next one? And I think there were a couple of people from St. George's, but they couldn't do it next week. They could do it in 3 weeks' time. So for the first few years, we were literally running every 3 weeks on a Sunday. And we took it from there. And we went all over, etc. on a Sunday, yeah.
A lot of school teachers then.
Yeah, because there are some fairly large schools. One is they're American schools, they're British schools, they're Scottish schools, and all the rest of them. And at that time, Argentina was privatizing. So there are lots of foreign firms coming in with their expats and all the rest to privatize and do this. So we got quite a lot there. Fairly quickly, we got up to running around about 100 people.
Wow. Yeah. Well, where were you born and what got you into expat life?
By mistake. I'm from Southeast London. I went to a boarding school, which was a very peculiar boarding school, which we still wear the uniform of 1555. And then I went to university and I was doing a student apprenticeship as an engineer. I couldn't be bothered to go back to the factory to finish off my thing, but so I joined the British Volunteer Programme. I was supposed to be, there were lots of doing, but I ended up in Costa Rica, where I met my next door neighbor was the person who eventually became my wife. She went to Los Angeles. I went back to the factory. I visited her in Los Angeles. We decided to get married. We went back to the UK and worked out that she would have difficulty living in the UK. She'd be a US friend. So I phoned up a bank who I changed some traveller checks in and said, this is my CV. Anyone interested? And they said, come and work for us. So I did. And I ended up being sent to Colombia. I was twice in Colombia, in Cali, Colombia, El Salvador, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Amsterdam, Madrid, and Buenos Aires.
Wow. We made a vacation to El Salvador, and basically the hash, it wasn't safe when we went. They were like, we'll set a run. We'll meet you at the bar. We'll call you on the telephone. They just degraded and said it's not safe to go out in the capital city. Were any of those cities dangerous back then?
El Salvador was quite dangerous. When I went down to Cali, I was mugged on my first day, so I could say that was quite dangerous. Left unconscious on the street.
Wow.
Bogota was okay. But down the road from where we lived, there was a shooting in El Salvador and things of that nature. What years? I was there from 75 to 76.
Oh, no, we just went before COVID, 2015 or 2014.
No, way back. But it was dangerous then, and the guerrillas were around, all the rest of it.
When you create a hash, you had a group of people. Did you come up with a logo and stuff like that? Were you part of that?
I think the Buenos Aires hash. Have you seen the Buenos Aires hash logo?
Yeah.
Let me show you what I got for my 100th run.
Great.
And what sound does that make?
Ba. Oh, BA. Ba. That's great.
It's actually the guy,
Right.
one of the GMs after me. I was just GM for a year because I'm a great believer in that you can set things up, get them going, but other people have to get involved, because if people don't get involved, then it becomes a one-man band, and I don't believe that's good.
Right.
So his father worked for Reuters in New Zealand. He went back there and saw this in the airport. So he got a few for people who'd done the 100 run. So there you go.
Great. What year was the first run, BA?
It must have been, it was either 92 or 93. I think it was 93.
Yeah. And what about the longevity of that hash?
It's still going.
It never stopped?
You'd have to talk to them there. I know, because I'm still on their Facebook thing, that they had a St. Patrick's Day run last weekend.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
As you probably know, I'm registered for the Montevideo hash.
Yeah, we'll be there too.
Oh, excellent. My idea is to tell them that I'm going to be in Buenos Aires, because the plan originally, we didn't know about the hash in Montevideo. We just saw there was a cruise going round. So we tried to get on the cruise, and then they said it was a post cruise. So we've actually backed out of the cruise, because I know Buenos Aires and all the rest of it, and I've done half the cruise anyway. We've got a meeting on Saturday. There are 4 of us going, and we're going to do Buenos Aires, go to Montevideo for the hash, and then go back to Buenos Aires and do places around Argentina.
Nice. Yeah, well, maybe intersect
and
with you.
My plan is to contact them, because on the Facebook group, they sent some photographs, and Dushan, who's the guy who was there when I was there, he's still there.
Whoa, that's great. Yeah, we went through and just stopped overnight, and we missed the hash. That was a prelude to the first PanSoam in Brasilia.
You know that there have been inter-Americas hashes there previously.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. Somebody actually has a T-shirt from it, or maybe you. Yeah, the first inter-South America PanSoam actually was not the first. There it is, the first LATAM. Yeah. Wow, we definitely got to get that. Thing's probably been scanned, but we got to get that. That's great.
That's got a whole load of stuff in all the rest of it.
So, hash ethics, yeah, so it's empty page.
Yeah.
So, who organized that?
The first one, I forget where, I think it was either in Rio or Sao Paulo, which we were supposed to go to, and we booked on it and all the rest of it. Most of them went on the Friday night because I was working. We were catching a plane on the Saturday, and we went out to Ezeiza Airport, and there was a plane with its nose down on the runway. It just crashed when it came in. So there were no flights that day, so we missed that. And we went on the next one, which was at Curitiba. So we did the one at Curitiba, which was great. where we met. It was the first time actually I'd really seen a naming ceremony, because I'd never seen a naming ceremony before. And also there were people from the San Francisco gypsies there, and some wonderful hash names. Have you come across a guy called Wrong John?
Oh, I know. I see Wrong John all the time because he's retired now, so he shows up at all the Euro. He's been going to Eurohash and Interscandia and all these. Let's see. Oh man, you got good stuff.
And the same one, they brought me this back.
Okay, raise it up. I see 1776. I can't see what's written on the bottom.
It says
Birth of a Nation, Miller High.
It's from Brazil.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So they brought me this one back, and they brought me another one which has got a whole load of fish on. Got a whole load of crap.
So a numbered mug, I think. It's got a serial number stamped on it.
Oh, it has. I hadn't noticed that. It says second in the series. I've got another one there which is all fishes.
Okay.
You know, I'm a real collectomaniac. I keep all this stuff.
Yeah, it's great to see my hash books from here. The old magic directories. That gives you Europe, South America. You went into the States. Have you hashed on the other continents?
No, I haven't. People have always said I have to go across to South. My wife's from Costa Rica, so I know Central America pretty well. And I'm comfortable in South America. And there's an awful lot to see there. And I have friends. Have you come across Dead Animal?
I know I've met a dead animal somewhere point. Yeah.
Dead Animal set up a hash in Canada.
Yeah, I've only been here 20 years, and I don't know which one would have started.
He's a Brit. I'll ask him. Yeah. He's an aeronautical engineer, and he goes on all of the interhashes and all of those. I saw him at the 𝐏𝐸 2000 recently. And
yeah, I need to interview him.
I'll tell you an anecdote about him. He's a very vociferous person. He and Foxy Lady know all of the songs. You've only got to start off and they're away. But when he arrived on the Madrid hash, he was shy. And he used to sit in the car with my wife and Chris's wife, and they would chat away because he was too shy. Now he's an absolute maniac.
What happened?
I must have come out of his shell or something. I don't know what it was. He's a great guy. He was that when I finished in Buenos Aires, they gave me the early retirement. And I bought a flat in Valencia. And a chap called Buono and I set up the hash there as well. But
the first ever hash in Valencia?
Yeah.
Wow.
But that didn't last more than a couple of years because we never had more than about 25 people. And then Buono went back to New Zealand and he just couldn't keep it going. Trouble with a small hash, if you can't find people to set the run, you've had it.
Let's talk about this kind of thinking about the hashing world over these years. As you said, the hash traditions are what they are. So somebody who came from 1958 and dropped into one of these hashes that you had in South America would feel right at home, and probably vice versa. But the hash is changing. The internet, cell phones, everything changed how we communicate. There's competition with running clubs and drinking clubs in some cities. The hash will change. Probably the rate of change is different. 50 years from now, you think we're still going to have hashing? You think these traditions will live?
I know. I spoke to King Sir James on that because he mentioned it, and also Uncle Jerry. Because 2 weeks after I'd been down there, I was on the Surrey hash talking to Uncle Jerry, and they both think that it's a dying breed. I'm not so sure. Because there is a lot of competition, but you have to refocus from becoming a running club with a drinking problem to just it's a social thing.
Yeah.
If I look at my hash at the moment, which is the Dos Marinas hash, the average age is probably mid-60s. And most of them are fast walkers or not so fast walkers. We run about 15 to 20 people with a bit of luck, and we've got 2 or 3 runners. So you adapt to that. It used to be that you set a trail, for a runner's trail and a walker's trail. You never used to have runners and walkers trails. As far as I was concerned, it was always one trail with a fairly reasonable shortcut. Otherwise, you didn't have FRBs or SCBs. You had shortcuts. The forced trails are there to slow you down, so it's the one trail. Now, I'm told to set a runner's trail and a walker's trail. I'm sorry about that. I'm a traditionalist. I'll do the one trail. And if you get lost out there, it's your problem. The sweep here will pick you up somewhere. So I think that as long as they adapt, and everyone's going to keep doing exercise, as long as with towns and all the rest of it, it's a good place to get out. It's a good place to meet people. What might make it different is the fact that it's been predominantly expatriates.
Yeah, that world's changed now.
If I go on the Surrey hash and I talk to people on the Surrey hash, there is obviously the people who set it up. Uncle Jerry was in Singapore and all the rest of it. There are lots of people there who've only ever run on a UK hash. If you think of the people in Malaysia, how many Malays have run outside their country? Not many.
Yeah, I remember in Rotorua, the first interhash I went to in '94, on the Prelude running around New Zealand. I met a couple great young guys, and I was a runner, and we're running together day after day on the Prelude, and said, hey, after this, see you in 2 years. And they're like, oh, I'm never leaving this island. They were just people who were going to be local hashers all their life. Yeah.
And it's always like that. Outside hashing, I look at the people in this village, and I had a flat in Valencia. I come to Valencia once a week. It was like going to a foreign land for them. It was a major trip. Almost passports and the rest of it. So I think hashing, it came from nothing. I don't think it's going to go back to nothing. I think it will stay on.
Yeah.
You're right. One of the problems in Valencia is there was an awful lot of competition. There was a thing called meetup, and people would meet up, and they had tennis and they had beer runs and goodness knows what else.
Yeah.
But it's just a question of perseverance.
What about big events? When did you first get to a big 500 plus event?
Okay, I came back from Buenos Aires to go on the Eurohash in Madrid. That was the first one I had. You must forgive me, I have stupid stories. I was on a flight from Buenos Aires to Rio to catch a flight across to Madrid. And I'm sitting next to this guy, and it turns out that he's a doctor who is at alcoholic clinics for alcoholics. And he'd just been in the Ministry of Salute of Health, trying to persuade them to put a restriction on beer drinking. And I said to him, but why? He said, because predominantly Argentines drink wine. You drink wine a different way to the way you drink beer.
All right.
When you drink beer, you tend to drink quite a lot of beer, and then you do things you really wouldn't want to do. Whereas if you drink wine, it's the other way. And he said, that's a problem. And he was talking about because the only breweries that they had down there were 𝐏𝐨𝐝, which was run by Heineken. And then Isenbeck came in and Brahma came in. And suddenly the beer, which was very expensive, became quite cheap. And so a lot of problems. Anyway, I was in the duty-free in Rio buying some cachaca to take back to my friend in Madrid. And he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, you didn't pay any attention to what I was saying, did you? All about. Anyway, so I flew over to Madrid and went on the Friday run. And unbeknownst to us, I think there were 300 or 500 people there, but someone nicked all the beer.
Whoa, all the beer.
All the beer disappeared. So they had to go out and buy new beer, because I was with Chris, organising, etc. We got new beer. And Russ Stocks was the manager of DHL. So I ended up driving a DHL truck as a beer truck to the various destinations. I didn't run at all. I was on logistics.
Just the version of the bin man for the Eurohash. Wow.
Yeah, so I did that. And then, as I say, I went to Curitiba. And then back here, there's the Madrid's thousands and things of that nature.
Did you get to a UK New Hash? You know those guys?
No.
Oh.
I know some of the guys, but basically I'm Spanish-based. I've got my son who lives in the UK. I used to go back fairly infrequently because having a wife in Costa Rica, we'd go to Costa Rica or Central America. And my parents had died, etc. So going back to the UK was just something else. But now that I'm getting more involved with the Surrey hash, I'm going back more frequently. So we'll see how it goes.
Did your wife have a hash name?
She was called Bad Penny. because she was continually lost and always turned up.
Nice.
And I got that because there was someone else on the Madrid hash who was called Bad Penny, and then they disappeared. So I thought, I don't know what she was called it, but yeah. She never actually set a run.
Wow.
She relied on me. But
Your household average contribution was pretty high,
yeah, and my kids. What is your opinion on children and dogs going on hashes?
It depends on the train. In Egypt, when I first got there at the end of the 80s, tons of kids. There was a lot of people who were there as expats with families because it was a very safe, really easy, good posting that people liked. So we had dogs and kids, and it was wide open. We were in the desert. There wasn't restrictions. We weren't going to run into the public. We were on sand dunes and things like that. So it worked really great. And the dogs had room not to knock people over on narrow paths. So that was just great. So my experience in Kuwait earlier, before the war, no kids. I don't know. There weren't any kids. There weren't many kids in Kuwait. It wasn't a very fun place. I like the idea that people have the opportunity to bring their kids at least to some runs if it keeps them in the hash. That's for sure. I don't need kids on the hash, but allowing kids at least sometimes to make sure their parents come is the way I look at it.
Yeah. No, I'm of the same opinion. My kids always went to the hash. I don't go to the hash anymore, but now exactly what I have. Chris's kids, when they come over, they were on the hash the whole time. If they come over because they've got the house in the street, if there's a hash going on, they're coming along to the hash and all the rest of it. It keeps them in the family. But I know 𝐏𝐶 and Tight Fit refuse to have kids on the hash.
He's an old curmudgeon about everything.
Curmudgeon is a very polite way of putting it.
Oh, I just love this I saw him in the Goa interhash that was thrown together when we had a cancellation. In 2022, we had an interhash in the red dress run. He had become King Sir James and renamed, getting extra honorariums with Bing. And he comes out into the circle and he sings the first line of a song, and then he stands there and his mind went blank. It was so great. I think Mushu, this young girl, comes out, puts her arm around him and sang the next line and rescued him. And it looked like we had rehearsed it. It was just great.
He's a good lad, but I wouldn't say he's old school. He's just old. He's got a good friend. Have you come across 𝐏𝐸𝐴𝐸?
I don't think so.
𝐏𝐸𝐴𝐸𝐸 and they end up sharing a room somewhere. I don't know, there's a relationship. But 𝐏𝐸𝐴𝐸𝐸, he started hashing, I think, in Shanghai, somewhere in China. And he's now based in the UK. So when I go on a Surrey hash, he comes on the Surrey hash as well. And he always comes down. For example, our hash is having its 100th run in June, and 𝐏𝐸𝐴𝐸𝐸 is coming back for it.
Oh, nice.
So he and I set runs together. And Surrey's a great part. They're not an enormous hash or anything like that, but they always turn up. Their trouble is that Surrey they've done, I don't know how many runs there, but most of them, you get out halfway around a run and someone says, it can't be this way. We've done this way before.
They've been going too long. Surrey's not getting any bigger.
So they're a great group. They're all great groups at the end of the day. And this is what's so great about hashing, is that you can literally go along and slot in. And as long as you don't mind making a fool of yourself once in a while, then that's it.
This will be a kind of a big deal to the rest of us, you turning up at the second PanSoam and back in Buenos Aires. I don't know that it's risky bringing some of those artifacts. You could bring some, but we probably need to at least photograph those artifacts. People would love seeing the mugs, your early T-shirts, the LATAM program. It's hard to take it apart, but at least some of that would be really cool. People really like seeing that. There's a lot of new. Oh yeah, 6th birthday. There you go. You're gonna have to take pictures at least of the covers of these things. And thus we found. Oh my gosh, that is brilliant. Yeah, people will really enjoy it. Both ends of the sheep.
This guy here, he was a teacher at the St. George's. And I called him Slow Hand because he used to play the guitar like Clapton. I've got a whole load of these things here, you know, for this, that, and the other. There was the 3 years one.
Oh, it's very cool.
So there you go. And that was the
1000th. Yeah, that one's probably still with a lot of people because that was a big deal and a nice book. Yeah.
and this is one you don't have many of.
Whoa. Yeah.
And on the back
Jeez.
there, black and white.
Was that the picture? That couldn't have been on the day.
No, it
or
could have
was
been
that
on the
made
day.
after?
I've got that one in color somewhere.
Oh,
That,
wow.
I think was the 150th, maybe the 150th.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was telling you that you've got all this inside.
Yeah.
There's me preaching the sermon somewhere. And that was all the statistics. You probably can't see it
Yeah.
properly. There's all the statistics.
No,
with the
yeah, you
names
can
and-
see it. Yeah.
So there you go.
On the hash, you've done all the positions and you like the way the hash is. Is the RA always right?
I thought GM was always right. There's a lot of differences. On some hashes, the GM does all the talking. On some hashes, the RA does all the talking. And I suppose it's a question of personalities.
Yeah, I got to admit, when I got to Cairo, the GM was in charge and the RA would come out and tell one joke. And I became RA pretty quick. And I put a wig and a thing on and I embraced it pretty well. Before long, I had flipped that switch. And we would then be able to get GMs who weren't that concerned about talking in the circle. They wanted to just introduce people. They were good hashers. And then, of course, you get a GM that wanted to do some more stuff. So it was all fluid. But yeah, that's true. And I was glad I had an opportunity to try to morph that a bit.
Yeah. Talking about RAs, one of the times I was on the Surrey hash, the RA came on and he said, I won't see you till May because I'm off to Kuala Lumpur. So I went up to him after and I said, you're going to Kuala Lumpur? He said, yeah, and hash out. I said, a guy called Repsot. He said, yeah, my best mate. I'm seeing him on Thursday. There were triumvirate. There was Rob Stock, Chris Bell, and myself. And we used to get pissed together.
Wow. Yeah, those connections are great. They play the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation. There's no way the hash has more than 2 degrees of separation for anybody, right? I think 2 degrees is about
You can't go on any hash and you can't find someone who doesn't know someone who you know. Whatever it is on coincidence and all the rest of it, because they're just too common.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wearing this hat. I pretty much just travel for hashing now, but I've always worn a hat in the airport. It's not anything too descriptive. Hashers look for colored t-shirts. They look for hats with letters on them. So if you're walking by someone, this is the best way to catch somebody on a non-hash travel airport of spotting people. The most recent one was about a year ago, and I was sitting in a little lounge and someone grabbed the chair and said, "Are you?" And I thought they were saying, "Am I using the chair?" I'm like, "Oh, no, go ahead." And they're like, "Are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I thought you were just a normal person." You're not, yeah.
No, it's like that. My son lives in Guildford where I've got a house. And the other day he phoned me up and he said, the hash has just gone by. And I said, what do you mean? He said, and he sent me a photograph of the trail.
That's great.
Just compares. Weird place, this.
Yeah.
It really is weird.
Yeah. The other thing I find fascinating is a guy in Cairo for a long time was GM then, a British Navy guy, worked in the Foreign Service there, and Sir Cluggs. He's from Milton Keynes and he's hashing overseas. And then I never knew there was a hash in Milton Keynes the whole time, right down the street from where I lived. Yeah. And so some people found it only when they were expats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were on the San Jose hash, the original hash. There was a guy who went back to London and he said he was going to set up a hash there. And then he discovered that the city hash had been running for goodness knows how long.
That's great. So, yeah, you like it or not, it is what it is. You're going to be a pretty cool VIP that we got at the PanSoam. For having started one of the big South American hashes, that's going to be something that we're going to want to find out who else in the crowd
on the
did
Mika,
stuff like that.
On the Mika's 2000, they said we've got a lot of founders here. And there must have been 6 or 7 of us in the circle.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where the other ones came from, but there are more of us around. It's not such a unique thing.
It is a little bit unique for South American founders and the PanSoam. That'll be pretty cool if we have a couple more in that event. Yeah.
I'm sure that the guy who I'm corresponding with in Montevideo, I think he set that up there, didn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
Because he replied to me because I had no idea about it. I sent off my registration and I put myself as Buenos Aires, which I'm now down as Buenos Aires. In fact, I haven't run in Buenos Aires for 20 years, but there we are. And he said, "Oh, I started off there. It'd be good to see you. I arrived just after you. I left in 2001. He arrived in 2022, just after me. It's really quite relative."
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And there are so many anecdotes about whatever hash names and all the rest of it. We had a German guy come on the Buenos Aires hash, who we immediately started calling Messerschmitt. Don't ask me why, but we did. And he said, "No, you can't call me that." And he got really uptight because he said his hash name was something else. He couldn't change it. And there are people who say once you've been baptized or you've got your hash name, that's it for life. And other people say, no, you can change depending on the circumstances.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
My opinion is definitely it should not be changed because they tried to change my name in Cairo. There was a hash up in Alexandria and they were just bullying. They were renaming all the Cairo people. And I said, you can't do that. There was just a couple of years there. And I know Froggy, a guy who's split between France and the UK, they tried to change his name in Jakarta a couple of times. He said, come on, we have names. So I don't know. If people don't care, if the person with the name doesn't care and you suggest it, change your name. But I don't think it should be an involuntary thing.
No. What about a time limit on getting names and all the rest of it? Typefit has decided that you can't get a hash name until you've set a hash.
That's what Cairo did, and I like that. I don't think there's a number of runs. I think there's a minimum, of being a hare.
Yeah, I have a thing about on some of the hashes, they get the dirtiest name you can, and you have to live with it. I'm more of the favorite of coming out with a name which really suits you. For example, we have one poor guy who had alopecia. So we called him Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
I was perfectly happy with that.
Yeah.
Flintstone looked like Flintstone. You had no problem with that. All those sort of names. When you start coming up with names which are mildly vulgar, sometimes they just don't fit.
In Cairo, I started the naming. They didn't have names at all in Cairo except people who arrived previously named. And we had all those kids. So people were worried. And I said, okay, I'll make sure that the kids can say them and not get kicked out of school for talking about the weekend. There were two names that we had to avoid. One was the guy who was the director of Coca-Cola. He said, you can name me anything but Pepsi. And then we had a teacher who I was gone that week and they named her pedophile. And she came back the next week. She goes, I cannot have this name at school. Kids know me. They can't be calling me pedophile. So we changed her name the next week. Somebody had done that to her. But Nose Candy was the guy who worked for Coke. And he was very happy with that name. He just said, you cannot call me Pepsi. So that's the only time we ever had a restriction. But we did keep them for quite a while the kids were there and even after, the double entendre and safe at school names.
Yeah, double entendre is one thing, but straight out vulgar is just, in my opinion, stupid.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of bullying. It's not mean-spirited, but it's just trying to say, aha, we can insult you a little bit. Yeah, you can be more creative than that.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think bullying, you shouldn't have bullying on the hash. You get people like that and they should be put in their place.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's the way small villages and communities have worked for thousands of years, and the hash kind of has that culture of a small family community that tolerates a lot of difference, but yeah.
Amazingly enough, you asked at the beginning where I was, and I said I was in a little village called Benimeli, which has got 350 people. Most of the locals here have a nickname.
Oh, my, that's great. Yeah.
And the reason I have their nicknames is because they all have the same Christian name. They're all Vicentes or Jose's or something like that. So they have to distinguish. Rather like the Welsh, you get Jones the plumber, Jones the this, Jones the that. they all have them here as well.
Yeah. I lived in Arabia, and everyone has Muhammad in their name, local. And it was a funny thing that happened in Sinai. Everyone is Musa. Everyone's named Moses. So it was Moses this and Moses that. And yeah, one time I bought a plane ticket in a little terminal in Cairo, and they said, ask for Muhammad Damascus. He's the guy that sold the Syrian Air. Ask for Muhammad Damascus. Yeah.
But it's great here. You have one guy, and they call him Chileno. Chileno in Spanish means from Chile, right? And there was a concert here, and this woman was singing. It was out in the open square, she's trying to get people to sing. And Chileno is a fairly shy individual, but they tried to get Chile. They said Chileno must sing. So she assumed that he was from Chile. He was born here, been here for 60 odd years, and she kept asking, when did you arrive? How do you like it? And all of this. The reason it's called Chileno, and his son is called Chileno, and his grandson is called Chileno, is because his father had a dog called Chileno.
That's great. Yeah, pick your dog's name carefully. It might become your name.
And I often get the feeling that hash names should be something stupid like that.
Yeah, absolutely, requiring some explanation that makes you shake your
I mean, it's
head.
why my wife was called Bad Penny, because there wasn't one hash she didn't go on with. She didn't get lost, but she was never lost. She always turned up.
Yeah, that's great. This is great. These are good stories. I know when we first talked, you said, oh, I'm not so interested. Your stories are fantastic, and you've actually done so much for the hashes. Thank you. Thank you for creating all that. And you are a source of great mementos there. I don't know. We're going to all beg you to take photographs and bring some photographs to South America later in the year and preserve those so we can see them.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. When I was on the Madrid hash, there was a German guy who made his own wine up in Germany. And he made us a batch of wine for us with the Madrid hash logo on it, which is the bull and all the rest of it. And me being me, I hadn't thrown it away, but it turned into vinegar. So I took it down to the run and I gave it to Madrid GM at a ceremony, because it turns out that it was dated the year that he joined the hash.
Oh my God.
So I gave it to him. I hope he threw it away, because that's
probably undrinkable. Yeah.
Totally. I thought it was a nice little memento. But there you go.
You know the Mijas crowd?
I've been down there a couple of times. In fact, their first away run, I was talking to Sir Flakey, and we were discussing, because I know they came out to the Madrid run as visitors in my last year. And one of them was a very fast drinker. So he challenged us to down a pint in one and all the rest of it. And so this mate, Chris, he said he could drink. And of course, he was slower than their guy. And one of our guys, who was an American, who we called Turbo, he said, what are you talking about? And he gave this thing, and he's got a throat that just opens up.
Yeah.
It went straight down. But Sir Flakey couldn't remember this. I don't know his selective memory of what it was, but we beat him on that.
Did you ever hear the story of him getting swept down the sewer in Singapore or Asia somewhere? They thought he died. Yeah. And if you do see him again, and I recorded it on a podcast interview with him, but yeah, that was one of those. I fell off the side of the road in Rwanda, and they thought I was dead, taking a picture of people peeing, and I disappeared in the dark. But Sir Flakey was underground in a moving stream for a long time. Those guys definitely thought he was dead. But
I've got a founder's hash. There's a founder's hash and all the rest of it.
Yeah, for Eiffel Tower. Yeah.
And I wanted to get founder's hats for the two founders of my hash. But I went onto the website and I couldn't get it to work. So I spoke to Sir Flakey, because I knew he was on there. And he told me the person who got it. So I finally got these things. But you were talking about people falling off the thing. I don't know if you remember, I mentioned Puffer. Puffer, he was the third secretary of the British Embassy, had very little between his ears. He rolled up at hash once, came running in, he was in 𝐏𝐸𝐻𝐵, did the hash, and as soon as he finished, he rushed off. And we said, you're not staying for the down, Dad? He said, no, I've got to go and get my car. They said, what do you mean go and get your car? Where is it? He said, he came up the motorway, turned right, realised he should have turned left, did a 3-point turn and ended up in the ditch. Realised he was late for the hash, so he ran to the hash, and he was going back to get his car out of the ditch. So I mean, we all piled in. We got him out of the ditch and all the rest of it. It was,
Dedication. Yeah. Leave the car. Yeah, that's brilliant. All right.
okay, I'll let you get on.
Yeah, send them along. Yeah, and then I'll see you in the fall down south.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay, on.
Okay, on. Good chatting to you. Cheers.
To close the circle, here's the Hash Anthem sung by Mother Hash.
Swing